Okay, the Department of Government Energy has them desperately
Reading
pleading.
5,000.
Got Elon. I'm worried about Elon because I'm a fan of Elon, so I feel like I look at Elon through like a rose-tinted lens. But my man is on ketamine out the ass on a lot of these stages and these world forums, and he is as high as a kite in some of this. Kath Patel yesterday took oath,
$1,000 check.
and today starts his onslaught. I cannot wait for like 3, 6, 9 months to see what Tulsi, Cash, and Bobby / RFK really do.
Checks per citizen trends, aka the Doge dividend. News outlets are doubtful this will actually occur, while others are telling their readers this could.
There is a chance that, I don't know if you guys saw this. What is 5 in rupee? There's a chance that the United States government is going to be giving every American tax-paying citizen this amount of dollars back. You feel bad for Vivek? I do too, honestly.
Could reignite inflation, and Democrat
I do like Vivek.
Congresswoman straight up tell you, you don't want that $5,000.
Now, President Trump says he likes the idea of giving some of the savings from Doge back to Americans as kind of a
Great
dividend.
idea.
Would you support that?
Listen, he's just telling a lie. He's not the one that had anything to do with the $1,200
No. Would you support the $5,000 for every American? Don't get it twisted.
refunds that people had during the midst of COVID that was done by Democratic House and Democratic Senate. Right now, what they're going to do is say, hey,
Was it under his presidency? Because Biden would have took credit for it. Prime Minister Modi takes credit for it. Why can't Trump take credit for it?
want to give you a refund, but Congress won't let us because they already know that there's just no money for that.
And this is just revisionist history.
This is so bad, had no money for it. No, we found the money. Doge, Elon and his team found all the money in the waste, and with all that waste, every American can get $5,000, and that's only 20% of the waste. Isn't that insane?
During the lockdowns, Donald Trump told the Democrats, if you just give me a bill that does nothing but put checks in Americans' pockets, he'll sign it immediately. But they kept playing games trying to fund their pet projects, getting their slice of the stimulus money first.
Yep.
And sadly, that's eventually what happened. But these Doge stimulus checks wouldn't have any room for theft, so by default, the Democrats are against them.
We had a once-in-a-lifetime pandemic. The bad part is that I don't know if it's once in a lifetime because we know that Ebola, unfortunately, was detected right here in New York here recently. And if we continue down this road...
So wouldn't you want everyone to have $5,000 so that they can pair and get extra, maybe some supplies, get healthy,
of getting rid of scientists or deciding that we don't want to rely on experts as it relates to what they're telling us to do, or we don't want to deal with vaccines
I know this is bad, but I feel like this eyelash is like about to fall off.
and medicine in this country, then we may be facing not only our next pandemic, but our next 2, 3, or 4 pandemics because of their incompetence. So no, we are not in the business of giving out money. And honestly, I don't know what $5,000 will do.
Doesn't
for
it look
you.
like
Rich
it's gonna fly
politicians
off?
telling viewers, I don't know what $5,000 would do for you, just shows how detached from reality these Democrats really are. As I remember working hourly, like
5,000,
most
that's-
Americans do, and $5,000
That's literally almost 3 months of rent. Like, that's 2.5 months of rent right there.
$1,000 is literally a life-changing amount of money. But what makes her brand of
Yes.
limousine liberalism even worse is she can't even shoot down the idea of Doge rebate checks without also justifying the pandemic
That's too
stimulus
much money?
checks and the possibility that
Nah.
we might have another one, which of course makes it so they can justify it again. So then she frames this as, those Doge cuts are directly impacting the scientists and experts that did such a good job last.
My big fear is that if you got $5,000, the same thing that happened in COVID is that things would inflate just a little bit because now, companies and markets know that you have an extra $5,000 in your pocket. That would be my fear. Like, what does that do, long term? But if this is ideally money that Americans have already paid because it's already been taxed, and this is the amount that we've gotten back, and it's only 20%, then I could see this being a boost to get Americans out of some debt and get them on their feet.
Last time, as if
For me, I would use it to buy a ring for low.
she doesn't remember literally everything the experts told us wasn't immediately reversed, where at best they admitted they just made it up, and at worst, they were caught covering it up. But once you get past all those inconvenient facts, then she may have a point about the $5,000 checks being bad. As former Republican Congressman Ron Paul explains, there could be drawbacks.
The proposal is that Trump and Musk says that we're saving so much money, we ought to give it back to the people, which sounds very good. So just cut taxes. There's a lot to be heard, but I don't see this as enhancing what has been already contributed to us, and that is exposure, audit, how horrible this is. And the people are really upset about this, and it represents a system of bankruptcy. But I don't see this emphasizing, that particular point. And actually, if you're going to save umpteen billions of dollars on spending, the budget, the spending has to go down, the interest rates have to go down.
I'm worried this guy's gonna have a heart attack in the middle of this, just trying to keep up. Like his brain's working faster than his heart right now.
And then the deficit and the debt that exists has to go down. And that's a big undertaking. I don't see how this will add to it, but there's the two guys working on this are a lot richer than we are.
Well, no, that's very true, but you don't have to understand, old man. All that has to understand is the spirit of the machines, the AI.
I remember back during COVID when we had the stimulus checks that they were sending out. Now, Thomas Massey, good friend of ours, board member of our Ron Paul Institute, he made, and I don't have it in front of me, I wish I had cut it, but I didn't, but he made a great calculation about how this quote-unquote stimulus money that you're going to get is actually going to cost you more than you'll have in your pocket to spend.
I agree. I agree with this because during this time, the 650 was inflated money, though. The American government turned on the printing machine and gave everyone $650, right? The issue with that is, and the difference with that between now is that this is once more money that's already been paid out by the Americans via being taxed, right, and paying our taxes. And that was money that was given to us from the government printing it. That's the only difference. And I'm not an economist. I don't have a major in economy. So I don't know what the 1, 3, 5, 10 years down the road, what does that actually look like? And does the ripple effect even go that far?
Through inflation, through special interest, getting more than you're getting, and all these number of things. So, and it actually played out exactly like he said. And I don't have it in front of me, but he made that good point. My guess is that he will be similarly skeptical about this money.
Well, that's a good point, because let's say they get their way and next week they're going to start it. They don't have money in the bank, so if they're going to
yeah, but it's all virtual as it is already, so it's all credits on an account and on a giant spreadsheet. So if we could just move some numbers around on the spreadsheet without actually printing any money, that's why I'm like, I'm curious to see where this goes.
Live up to their promises, and they have to start sending these checks out. They have to print the money, which invites more inflation. And the prices go up, and people say, well, I'm not any better off.
You'll get your 5,000, but then eggs will quadruple.
And it's a very valid point. The stimulus checks last time caused rampant levels of inflation. Now, those checks were tied to billions of dollars of other spending that caused the majority of said inflation. But I, too, am not a fan of cutting checks for the sole purpose of making the citizens happy in the short term, but much worse off in the long term. So it almost seems like something that might just be a bargaining chip. All these Doge rebate checks are just a concept being passed around and not denied, but I haven't really seen any solid statements from Trump saying, this amount of money is going to you on this date. So it may just be a case of Trump pitching something popular that the people will love, and the Democrats by default have to say it's a bad idea because basically that's their entire platform now. Donald Trump.
Yeah, Trump can't have any good ideas.
Trump doesn't need to actually start cutting checks, but he can still cash a political win, as the Democrats are still crying over Doge, saying Elon is hiding their findings, when in actuality, they are entirely transparent with all their findings.
Yeah, just go on Twitter, you'll find it.
At doge.gov, where it just reposts their tweets, which are very detailed on their findings, as Elon is learning from the best, actually taking up a chainsaw from Argentina's president Javier Milei.
This whole thing was so... I am a fan of Elon, but this one was hard to watch. He was like trying to be a comedian, and he's just autistic. His autism was showing.
This is the chainsaw for bureaucracy. Chainsaw.
As the government waste they're finding is absolutely insane.
And the record topper, there is one person on Social Security who's 360 years old.
I don't know if you in India, do you guys have like a social security net where you guys basically pay into it your whole life, and when you retire, you get a little bit out of it each month? That's basically what social security is here. And there was people, you know, like humans live to get to 100, 110 years old, but we were paying out social security for people who were 200 years old, 300 years old. These people were vampires in America, and I bet you they're all in Hollywood, all of them.
Which is approximately 110 years older than our country.
And anybody that hears that should immediately apologize to Elon and Trump, as this type of error shouldn't be possible.
Correct.
Or someone is cashing checks that definitely shouldn't, or someone simply messed up on their paperwork and they're not actually 360 years old. Either scenario is something we should have detected so we can protect the
It's more than likely the first option.
taxpayer from fraud. But the idea that certain politicians want to look the other way for no other reason than Orange Man bad shows you that they too are likely on the take, as Ron Paul's son, Senator Rand Paul, has shocking discovery.
$4.8 million spent in Ukraine for social media influencers. While you're at it, but the people who vote for this, I've voted against all of this, but the members of the Senate who voted for this spent several $100,000 sending designers in Ukraine to the fashion show in Paris. It goes on and on.
And it sounds insane, but actually makes sense when you remember their president was taking photos for Vogue magazine while his people were at war.
Interesting. I wonder how much he got paid for that photo shoot for Vogue.
I think even the Democrats that are pro-war, that want to send every U.S. tax dollar available to fight the war in Eastern Europe to save democracy in a country that canceled their elections. But even those deep blue liberals would likely be against funding social media influencers and fashion show appearances, and they wouldn't know where that money was going without auditing. But again, since auditing budgets has now become a Donald Trump initiative, they are now forced to be against transparency, while simultaneously ignoring Doge's transparency and crying over their willful ignorance.
It really feels like the whole Democratic Party needs a new name, because it's been completely co-opted by this weird way of thinking that's just not. It's not very liberating. It's not very inspiring.
As I imagine everybody watching this channel is against wasting our money on this nonsense, but some of us,
I think that's pretty dumb. I don't want to waste money.
Don't think those savings should just be sent to the people. They should remain as savings. And if these savings aren't going to be turned into checks, what should we do with the additional $1 trillion remaining? We may possibly just stop collecting them.
President Trump has spoken about replacing income tax with tariff revenue, especially with all this waste, fraud, and abuse that we're seeing cut. Is that a possibility?
Absolutely, and in fact, if you think about the China tariff revenue that we're estimating is coming in from the 10% that we just added, plus the de minimis thing, that it's between $500 billion and $1 trillion over 10 years is our estimate.
If they got rid of federal income tax, that would be amazing. It is insane that you could work a 40-hour work week, 80 hours on a payroll, and the government comes in and takes part of that check. That's your hard-earned money. They can get their taxes from when you pay for shit, when you interact with, different parts of America. But the money that you work for is the money that you should keep.
And that's something that is outside of the reductions that markets are seeing through the negotiations up on the Hill. And so we expect that the tariff revenue is actually going to make it much easier for Republicans to pass a bill, and that was the president's plan all along.
As the IRS has already begun mass firings, and getting rid of income tax is infinitely better than a one-time payment of $5,000, as one
Agreed.
Over time, each citizen is going to receive much more than a single 5K check. But 2, it finally ends this relationship where the government acts like the citizen's pimp.
My checks would probably, they start with a 2 now, they'd probably start with a 3 afterwards.
Slick talking the people into letting him hold all the money and redistribute it amongst us when we can prove a valid enough reason to get it back. And this analogy can just keep going, but I want to keep this PG, so in other words, I want the politicians to stop screwing us. But if you appreciate my concise, lighthearted commentary on the tragic status that is today's reality, hopefully—
Always great videos, but it is shocking to see just how messed up everything is right now. I want to see some of these comments. We don't have enough to give everyone 500 or 5K. Same person who supported giving every illegal 13K debit cards every month. Oh, the irony. 0 down on a 400K loan. I mean, some of the immigrants coming into this country got better deals than Americans did, like who actually live here. Insane. Okay.